Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another really interesting test to run, or at least putting two chokes head to head here with this load that we know is an absolute hammer, and I suspect we're going to see two more fantastic patterns from it, but I'm really curious to see how it acts through these two slightly different chokes, because one may give us an even pattern and the other might give us a really tight screamer. At least that's my theory coming into it, but we'll have to see what happens. But for the shells we've got today, I brought out some more of the Epic TSS Turkey loads. These ones are their 28 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, ounce and a quarter payload of TSS 9s at about 1,050 feet per second. And these are part of their Extreme line as well, which really condenses that pattern down, gets rid of a lot of flyers and stuff like that, and it legitimately does. We know these are absolute hammers for shells, so we'll see how they do through today's two chokes, and if we find yet another winning combination with them. As for the setup that we're running them in, I brought out my Tristar Viper 28 gauge. It's got a 28 inch barrel on it, but like I've said, we've got two different chokes that we're going to run head to head here today, those being these two. And they're pretty similar, but they do have their differences, and I'm really curious to see how each one does. First, we've got a Carlson's Turkey 520 constriction, and then we've got the Trulock TSS Turkey. That's a 515 constriction. So two slightly different constrictions. The Carlson's is completely smooth down the inside, no steps or anything like that. The Trulock does have 3 steps in it, so slightly different, but pretty similar overall in style anyway. No porting or anything like that going on here. We know both of these are hammers, and if I had to guess, the Carlson's is going to give us our typical little bit more open pattern, but very even. But this Trulock has been an absolute hammer for us so far. If there's a choke that's got a real possibility of giving us pretty well all of our pellets inside of our turkey target at 40 yards, it may very well be this Trulock. So we'll see what the difference is here between these. But as for our test today, we're running everything the same as usual. Got both turkey targets set up side by side at 40 yards with the chrono to get our velocity as well. So let's get you guys a view of those targets and see how these Epic shells perform through that Carlson's 520 and the Trulock 515. I suspect both are going to be lights out, but how different of a pattern are they actually going to be? Let's take some shots and see what they give us. Alright, so we'll take a quick look at our velocities before we look at our targets. We have a boss claim of 1,050 feet per second, and I believe we were just averaging a little bit below that. Our Carlson's 520 gave us 1,039, and our Trulock 515 gave us 1,011. So yeah, we're just a little bit under that claim, but still over the 1,000 feet per second mark is going to be just fine for a TSS 9 out to 40 yards or so. So nothing too out of the ordinary to see here, but let's check out our patterns, because I think we saw some pretty interesting results down there for sure. Okay, so here we are down at our 40-yard papers, and we see two results that I absolutely did not expect to see from these shells. Usually, these shells are absolutely nasty performers. We've tried them through an Indian Creek 520, we've tried them through a Pattern Master Code Black Turkey 515. Both of those combos were absolutely lights out, no doubt about it. Now, technically, yes, Epic does a lot of their research and testing and development and stuff with Indian Creek chokes, but even with that, this is still not exactly what I expected to see. Neither one of these is necessarily a terrible pattern, but they are much more broad and open than what we typically have been getting from these shells. So if you've seen those other tests with these, then this is a perfect example on why you test your shell with several different chokes and see what they like and don't like, because some shells will be a lot more picky about what chokes they perform well in. These might just be one of them. First up over here on the left, we have our Carlson's 520 constriction. Obviously, dead bird at 40 yards for sure. There's one or two through the brain and several more down through the spine, and there's nowhere he can go to and get through that pattern. So it is indeed 40-yard capable. However, you can see we cover most of the top portion of this paper here. Typically, these shells are putting just about everything within a 12 to 13 inch circle. That turkey target is 12 inches wide, and usually we don't have very many of of them around the edges of that turkey target. So definitely much more broad, and it is relatively even, although there are a couple bigger void areas within there, kind of center of the left edge of the paper there, and kind of right behind his head up towards the top right of the paper. Those are two pretty decent noticeable ones. It doesn't necessarily ruin the pattern, and if you wanted to, waterfowl hunt or something like that with a TSS load, that might be a decent pattern to be able to do that with, and it is absolutely turkey capable for sure. It's not a bad pattern, it's just nowhere even remotely close to what we have seen from these shells, and even typically what we get from a decent, solid performing 28 gauge TSS load. For somebody that wants a little more breathing room in their pattern, I mean, clearly that combo would absolutely do it. I expected a little more open and a little more broad pattern from the 520 Carlsons here, but even this is a little bit more open than what I figured we would see. But moving over here to the right with our Trulock 515, kind of a lot of the same story really. I do think we have a little more condensed area of shot kind of right at the base of that bird's neck down towards the bottom right corner of that turkey target. But as far as the rest goes, it's still kind of scattered and open just like that Carlson's was. I definitely think this top left corner of the pattern is the thinnest area in it. Kind of everything favored a little bit down lower and to the right there within the pattern. So clearly neither one of these chokes is the favorite with these shells for sure. This pattern with the Trulock might be a touch tighter, at least within our core area, than what the Carlson's was. I mean, it is a little more constriction as well, so that does make sense. But even still, this is a lot more open of a pattern than what I would have expected out of these for sure. So looking at these two again side by side, the Carlson's on the left, the Trulock on the right. I mean, really, pick which one you want. They're both pretty similar overall, but definitely not what I thought we would see out of these. And I literally just tested one of those shells in the timeline of me filming this anyway. I don't know what order the videos will come out in, but I literally just tested one of these Epic 28 gauge loads a few days ago, and it was a hammer. So surprising results here, not what I expected, but let's pull the turkey targets down, finish counting our pellets, and we'll really see what the difference is and how these two actually performed. Okay, so now we've got our targets out of our way. Again, we have the Carlson's 520 on the left and the Trulock 515 on the right. As far as the numbers go, they're not too far off from one another, but I do think that Trulock over there on the right is probably a little better performer. It's a little more even throughout the pattern that we have there, although both of them are not exactly overwhelmingly impressive. Again, we'll start with the Carlson's 520. We have a 10 and 20 inch circle drawn there. And within our 10 inch ring, we have 104 pellets. You can definitely see one of those voids over there that I was talking about earlier within it. Don't love that. That one's definitely noticeable. And outside of that, with our 20 inch ring, we pick up an additional 178 pellets. And we have a little thinner spot over here on the left and another little thinner spot over there on the right with our fair share of stuff around the edges as well. So that's about what we thought we saw with the turkey target up there as well. Again, definitely 40-yard capable. It would certainly do the job, but it is nowhere even remotely close to the best performance we've seen from these shells. That's for sure. And now over here on the right with our Trulock 515, you can see a little bit better pattern going on here. Within our 10 inch circle, we have 151 pellets compared to only 104 with the Carlsons. And outside of that, with our 20 inch circle, we have 160 pellets. So a few less than the 178 that we had with the Carlsons. But I think the pattern is a little better overall here, at least where it counts within our hunting area there. Outside of it, we still scattered quite a number of pellets around the edges. So this is still absolutely 40-yard capable. It's not a bad pattern, especially for somebody that wants a little more leeway to work with. It's just nowhere even remotely close to what I expected from these shells. So overall here today, between these two combinations, I think the Trulock is the better performer, but like we've already said a number of times, it's not exactly what I thought we would see. These Epic shells have pretty much always been hammers. The 28 gauge ones, the two tests we've done with them so far, have been hammers, and even then, we've tried them with an Indian Creek 520, which did way better than that Carlson's 520 did, and we've tried them with a Pattern Master 515, which did way better than what that Trulock gave us. So that that right there is a perfect example on why you test different shells through different chokes. Some shells are going to be a little more particular with different chokes than others will be. So pretty unexpected results. Neither of them are terrible patterns. I think the Trulock is the better option here, but it certainly seems like if you want to run some of these Epic 28 gauge loads, something like an Indian Creek is probably going to be your better bet, at least based on what I've seen. And I mean, it lines up with what they do a lot of their load development with, so it would make sense. But definitely not at all what I was thinking we would get for patterns coming into it for sure. And here are the two wads from the shells. You've got your Carlson's 520 on the left and your Trulock 515 on the right. Both of these look very much so standard. Nothing out of the ordinary that I wouldn't expect to see. A little more choke caused the wad to open up a little more. Nothing out of the normal there either. Little felt pieces in the bottom look perfectly fine, and no major damage or anything to speak of here. So the wads look perfectly fine. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about these two results right here? I know it wasn't exactly what I expected to see, and it probably wasn't what a lot of you guys expected to see either. I really think this just comes down to these shells kind of really being designed for a particular choke set, those being the Indian Creeks, and sometimes you can get good patterns from other chokes, but it's a lot more particular of a shell with other chokes compared to running them through an Indian Creek. The conditions are perfect out here today. We're in the low 60s, so I'm about to have to take this jacket off. There's no wind or anything. I just recently did a test with another one of those shells here recently. I'm sure that video is already up by now, probably a week or two ago, I would imagine. And that shell was an absolute hammer, so the shells are perfectly fine. Nothing out of the normal there. They haven't been dropped, they haven't been beat on, they haven't been out in the rain or the heat or the cold or anything like that. So nothing should be out of the ordinary here with these. And we can see both of them performed consistently about the same, just much more broad patterns. So it most likely comes down to the choke selection here. But like I said earlier, it's a perfect example on why you test shells through different chokes, because sometimes even the best shells can be particular with chokes. If you find that absolute hammer of a combination, there's probably going to be another choke or two that isn't so much of an impressive performer. And I think that's what we have here. Neither of these is a terrible pattern, but the Trulock is definitely the better option between these two. If these are what I had, I would absolutely hunt with them to 40 yards. However, these are probably going to suit somebody that prefers a little more broad area of shot in their pattern compared to somebody that likes those really tight screamers. So a little bit of a surprising result here today. Not what I expected for sure, but leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these epic shells, and if so, what kind of results have you seen? Are either one of these a combination you would take out, or would you much rather prefer a previous choke that we've tested with these, giving you a much tighter overall spread? And I've still got one or two of those shells left, I believe, so let me know what other choke combos you might want to see us run them through, or what other shells do you want to see us put them up against. Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see you all in the next one.